In the boundless void between stars, Voyager 1 drifts alone, silent, ancient, and yet very much alive. For over 4 decades, this humble spacecraft has ventured farther than anything humanity has ever built. It has journeyed well beyond its original mission, continuing to function in the cold reaches of deep space. Scientists believed they had a solid understanding of its trajectory, status, and expected future. But then, Voyager 1 sent something back, a signal. Not just any signal, but a transmission so bizarre, so unexpected, and so deeply unexplainable that it rattled even the most seasoned space scientists at NASA. What could possibly be hiding beyond the heliopause in the cold, dark unknown? Could it be a simple malfunction, or was it something far more profound? Stay with us, because what Voyager 1 just transmitted from the edge of interstellar space might change everything we thought we knew about the universe. Launched in 1977, Voyager 1 was originally designed for a relatively modest mission: explore Jupiter and Saturn, send back a few pictures, and then fade into the cold emptiness of space. But against all odds, it refused to die. With its 3.7-meter radio dish and a plutonium-powered heart, Voyager outlived its original purpose and kept moving, pressing onward far beyond the planets it was built to observe. Today, it drifts more than 22 billion kilometers away from Earth, deeper into interstellar space than any human-made object before it. And although it has been decades since its last planetary flyby, it still speaks to us, whispers from the void, messages from the beyond. No one, however, could have predicted what came next. In May of last year, scientists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory noticed something strange. The Attitude Articulation and Control System (AACS), responsible for keeping Voyager's antenna precisely pointed at Earth, began transmitting scrambled data. This wasn't just a technical error, it was incomprehensible. Telemetry data was inexplicably being routed through an onboard computer that had been declared dead 4 years. Even more baffling, Voyager 1 was still clearly aligned with Earth. The signal strength was strong, its instruments stable, and science data continued to flow in as if nothing were wrong. It was as if the spacecraft had suffered a stroke, but somehow continued speaking fluently through another channel. Was this a fluke, a mere cosmic hiccup, or something far more significant? Engineers worked tirelessly to solve the mystery. Eventually, they succeeded in redirecting the AACS to send its data through the proper working computer, and the garbled transmission stopped. But the deeper question remained: why did it happen in the first place? No one at NASA had issued a command to reroute the data. There were no solar flares, no hardware failures, no meteorite impacts. And yet something had triggered this shift. Some theorized a bit flip caused by cosmic radiation. Others suspected a decaying segment of the spacecraft's internal logic that had inadvertently triggered an automated failsafe. But a growing number of scientists began to wonder if Voyager had encountered something out there, something we weren't prepared for. Since the fix, Voyager has remained stable, yet a sense of unease lingers. The glitch may be resolved, but the mystery it left behind is not. Why didn't the fault protection systems activate? How did a computer long thought dead suddenly come back to life? And perhaps most unsettling of all, could this have been a reaction not to internal failure, but to some external stimulus? Voyager 1 is no longer within the heliosphere. It exists now in raw interstellar space, navigating through cosmic rays, magnetic fields, and possibly unknown phenomena. Could it be that the spacecraft interacted with a structure, an anomaly, or an environment we have never encountered before? The data packet that triggered the whole event has been archived and is still under review. Early indicators suggest fluctuations that do not align with natural patterns. Something triggered Voyager, and that something might still be out there. Weeks after the initial glitch, Voyager 1 began transmitting a new set of data from its plasma wave instrument. At first glance, there was nothing unusual, but analysts soon noticed an irregular spiker pulse in the readings that resembled a heartbeat. It pulsed once, then again, and then disappeared. Scientists compared the data against solar activity and cosmic ray interference, but nothing matched. The signal had a rhythm, brief, consistent, and impossible to attribute to any known phenomenon. When researchers attempted to trace the source through raw telemetry, it was as though the spike had never existed, like a dream vanishing upon waking. Some described it as a phantom event, something that left no digital residue, but felt undeniably real. The question began to take root. What if Voyager hadn't just sent an error? What if it had encountered something that could erase its own traces? What followed was an obsessive combing through every kilobyte of data Voyager 1 had transmitted since the incident. Not only were the obvious science readings analyzed, but also the background noise, the hum, the static, the electromagnetic fluctuations. And buried deep in the carrier signal, researchers found something subtle: micropatterns, harmonics, rhythmic sequences, near-perfect repetitions. These signals were too consistent to be random, too faint to decode easily. One NASA engineer, who had worked on the mission since the 1980s, reportedly said, "It's like something is knocking from the other side of a wall we didn't know was there." Attempts to decode these patterns are ongoing, with some teams feeding the sequences into AI models trained to find structure in chaos. According to early, unofficial leaks, the models are responding. They recognize syntax, they detect structure, as if this was never just noise, but a message. For decades, Voyager's golden record has symbolized humanity's greeting to the cosmos, our way of saying, "We are here." But what happens when the cosmos talks back? NASA's contact protocols, largely theoretical, are built around the idea of unmistakable alien communication, clear math, coded primes, universal physics. But what Voyager 1 has triggered doesn't fit that mold. It isn't a conversation. It's a glitch, a shadow, an echo. And yet, it's happening now. This has forced mission directors to revisit dusty documents from SETI, Project Ozma, and even debates over the Drake equation. They're re-evaluating the very definition of first contact. Does it have to be verbal? Or can it begin with a malfunction one that points to something watching? If Voyager encountered something, and that something responded in a way that altered its systems, then we may already be in a dialogue we don't yet recognize as such. And now comes the most unsettling question of all. If this transmission is real, if Voyager wasn't just broken, but changed, what does that mean for the rest of space? Could other probes experience the same? What about future human missions venturing further into the unknown? Could they, too, run into whatever this is? And could the silence that followed Voyager's anomalies be a message in itself? Since then, the last bursts of strange data have tapered off, plasma readings have normalized. The phantom pulses have gone silent. Voyager is, by all appearances, operating normally again. But many now wonder, was that the true anomaly? The sudden silence. One physicist put it this way: sometimes, the loudest scream is the one that stops suddenly. As the scientific world waits for the next strange ping from interstellar space, a growing sense takes root: something is watching. Voyager may not have merely encountered the unknown. It may have crossed a threshold we didn't know existed. And now, we stand at the edge of something unimaginable. A spacecraft launched before the internet even existed, older than many of the scientists now studying its data, has returned with a whisper from the void. A transmission that wasn't supposed to happen, routed through systems long thought dead, carrying fragments of patterns that defy natural explanation. It's not just the mystery of what Voyager 1 encountered, it's what that mystery implies. If this signal was triggered by something out there, something intelligent, structured, and reactive, then perhaps the silence we've come to expect from the stars was never silence at all. Perhaps it was patience. Voyager 1 may not be just a relic of the past. It might be our first ambassador, or our first witness, a witness to something so vast, so incomprehensible that it chose not to reveal itself in words, not in flashing lights or grand displays, but in the one place we least expected, a technical anomaly, a ghost in the circuitry, a breath in the data. And now, the question is no longer are we alone, but rather, did someone or something just acknowledge our presence in the dark? If this was their first reply, then we must ask, what happens when they decide to speak louder?